welcome to The Big Picture. I'm Tina Jha. The government on Thursday issued new guidelines for administering the Covishield vaccine. The interval between two doses of the vaccine has been extended further to 12 to 16 weeks. It was earlier 6 to 8 weeks. The Union Health Ministry said that the decision was based on the recommendation of the 7-member COVID-19 working group. States have been conveyed about the revised time frame and necessary changes are now being carried out in the CoWIN platform. Covishield, that has been developed by Astrazeneca in collaboration with the Oxford University and is being produced by the Serum Institute of India, accounts for 90% of the 17.8 crore vaccine doses that have been administered in the country so far. India's decision also comes almost 3 months after the UK took a decision to increase the gap to 12 weeks. However, there has been no change made in the interval between two doses of Covaxin, which is our indigenous vaccine developed by Bharat Biotech. So today on The Big Picture, we will analyze with experts the basis on which the decision to extend the gap between two doses of Covishield has been taken. How beneficial will the move be in protecting people? And are there any risk factors in expanding this dosing gap? So joining me on the program are two distinguished panelists. Let me introduce them to you. I'm joined today on the show by Professor Dr Gupta, member NEGVAC, which is the National Expert Group on Vaccine Administration for COVID-19, and Professor N.K. Ganguly, former Director General of the ICMR. Thank you to both my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Professor Ganguly, allow me to begin the program today with you. Help us understand the basis on which this decision has been taken, because this is the third time when a change has been made in the gap between two doses of Covishield.
Actually, Tina, I myself has taken Covishield, and the whole trial was done on 28 days difference. So I had taken my second dose on after 28 days. And my antibody was 15 units, which is sufficient for protection. However, in England, when it was raging, England first started this trial, this introduction. And they were in the wit's end, they didn't have enough vaccine. So some side trials were started. In the side trial, there were two things which were taken. First dose, smaller dose, and second dose, normal dose, or increasing the gap of the two doses, which was not possible in the first trial. So when they did it, they found that if you reduce the first dose and give the larger second dose, you get better response. And if you enhance the gap, you get a better response. So they took the strategy that give the vaccine to as many people as possible, and later on, when there is more production, give the second dose. So they ultimately came to conclusion, and there is a scientific data this April, this paper has been published, that you could give even up to 3 months after the first dose, and it will not make any difference. So I think the government made it is a science and strategy both. We do not have enough vaccines at the moment. It will take 2 to 3 months to get our vaccine on rail. And what government has said that by December we will have enough vaccine and we will be able to give vaccine to everyone. So the science says that we can enhance the gap. And strategy says that we will be able to immunize more and more people if we adopt this particular strategy. So that is how this strategy has been enhanced. The first it was not that a big issue. So the gap was increased based on the science, and later on it has now become an issue that how to reach vaccine to maximum people, because we are having a raging pandemic. And one of the strategies is that immunize at least 50 to 60% of people to stop the transmission. So if we want to achieve this, this was the only strategy which was left for the government. And
okay, Professor, do you agree? Do you agree that it's a similar approach that now India is following, which the UK did when the pandemic was raging there, which is a combination of both science and strategy, so that we can cover as many people as possible with at least the first dose? And the second bit that I want to understand from you is If the studies show that increasing the gap is better, the question is, what about those who have received both doses as per previous schedules? So now, are they at a disadvantage? Because the common man is asking the frontline workers, the senior citizens who have been administered the dose as per the previous schedule, are they now at a disadvantage?
I think you have asked wonderful practical questions. So answer to the question number one, that we have increased, or the government has increased the duration from 4 weeks to 6 weeks later, and then now it has gone to 12 weeks. It is science-based, and the reason is the initial study said that, after 4 weeks we get sufficient amount of antibody to protect you. However, when some studies that later as the time progressed, we found that the titer is better when you do it at 8 weeks. And therefore, it was suggested. Science is dynamic. And as now results come that even if you do it at 12 weeks, your titer goes up, and up. It will plateau then. So what we have found that even at 12 weeks, the titer is sufficient enough to protect you. That means you get it at 8 weeks, no problem, is good. You get it at 12 weeks, it is equally good. And therefore, we recommend that you do it at 12 weeks. Now, beyond 12 weeks, there are possibilities that it may be still better, but the data doesn't show yet. That's number one. Therefore, the extension of time. It has a collateral, I would say, an advantage on a strategy. A collateral advantage on a strategy, but the primarily decision is based on only science. Number two, whether those who have received, like I have received my second dose just after, I think it was 7 weeks. No, I am not a disadvantage, because at that time my titer was sufficient enough to protect, and I am protecting. It does not mean that my titer will be somewhere very high and I will get protection for 3 years or 5 years, and those who get after 4 weeks interval, they will have a less protection. No. So common man should not believe that they are at any disadvantage if they have taken at 4 weeks. Rather, they should have been fortunate. I would consider myself fortunate कि अगर हमको infection उस समय हो गया होता, that means at that time I would have been protected. I am now protected.
Yes.
So there is no way that they are at any disadvantage. Now, finally, I would say science in COVID is very dynamic, and therefore we have to every day evaluate the new findings which are coming and take the policy decision. And if the public understands that the science in this new virus is so rapidly changing, therefore the change has to be translated into policy, and policy has to be understood by the common people. Otherwise, they will be confused.
Okay.
And you play a major role.
Okay, Professor Ganguly, coming back to you on another question which people have been asking is, how much protection will increasing this gap give now? Is there any study which suggests how much an increased gap will help in protecting when it comes to the severity of the infection, or for that matter, even death?
Until now, we have about 8 months follow-up, okay, of the people who were vaccinated early. And because the Covishield was one of the first to be introduced to the world, the Pfizer was introduced little after that. So we have about 8 months follow because it has been used around Europe, around the world. So up to 8 months, the antibodies are there, sufficient antibodies to protect. Up to 6 months, definitely, the larger data, that definitely there's enough antibodies to protect. So we do not know that whether it will go beyond or not. But most respiratory infections, whether it is influenza, whether it is other respiratory infections, Normally, except measles, which is a very long term, it is not a simple respiratory infection. It is a dermatotopic virus also. Rest of them are fragile, that their immune responses remain up to lesser period. So here the neutralizing antibody, which is being measured, not the T cell immunity. T cell immunity in Singapore studies, who had done the old SARS infection, they have found that even after 3 years, the T cell memory remains and T cell responses remain. So as we gather data, as Dr. Gupta said, that it is a very dynamic thing. Every other day we are getting new data. The T cell memory is going to remain longer, and the neutralizing antibody might drop, and which is likely to drop, so that the strategy what people are making, like Pfizer has already said that give a third booster. Here the Covaxin guys are going for a third booster. So third booster will take care of the thing. But the strategy which other companies like Pfizer and Moderna are doing, because in messenger RNA you can take care of the mutants very easily. So they have synthesized the prevalent mutants, and their third booster will be the mutant with the Wuhan strain. So that is the third booster. Another strategy they have created, that if like influenza, we have to give the vaccine every year, then like in influenza, we give now 4 different influenza viruses. So what they have done, that they have created mixture of the prevalent mutants in major part of the world, and have created a vaccine which is ready, and some studies have already started. So the world is preparing itself for whatever it comes, and science is moving. Here the issue was that we went very, very early. We went within 6 months, we went to vaccination to control, and we now know that vaccination controls it. 15 to 18 countries have controlled it. US have even said, though, you don't wear mask anymore. Their transmission have come to such a low level. Israel have removed mask from their day-to-day activity. There has almost tanked the bottom. So vaccine helps. So I want to remove any idea about anyone that vaccine helps. And as I started it, that I got it in 4 weeks duration. After that was a major move, and I had sufficient antibodies. The 15 unit antibody is good. Some people in my age, they do not get good antibodies, but somehow or other, majority got a good antibody. Only 7% of what we know now from the different studies in India, 7% didn't get a good immune response. Rest of them got good immune response. So I think vaccination is the answer, and whatever strategies will be taken, people should not say that you have taken this on that day and now you have changed. This is being changed according to the data which is available. Also, we might have different strategies to take it. Like USA also had at one time taken strategy, because they have shortage of vaccine, that give first dose in every arm of US citizens. And their vaccine was better. Pfizer is the best vaccine in the world, which protects 95%. They had a data that first vaccine will also protect significantly. So they also had adopted the same strategy.
Absolutely. There is no doubt that vaccines are providing enhanced protection against COVID-19 the world over. But as studies are being conducted, the strategies in different countries are also varying. But Professor Gupta, coming to you for another question that we want to understand in the context of India, if the gap between 2 doses of Covishield assures enhanced protection, what about Covaxin? Why is the gap between 2 doses of Covaxin not being revised?
As I said earlier, everything and every policy decision should be based on the evidence and the data. And as far as for the Covaxin, this data is not there, that after 4 weeks, whether we will get a better protection or not. And therefore, we still maintain that for Covaxin, 4 weeks is an ideal thing. However, if later the data gets that you can also have higher antibody titer after 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, or whatever, this policy can also be changed. But as on date, it is 4 weeks. I would just say one thing. Many people say, "Arey bhai, 4 weeks hai, 28 days, so humko to 30 days ho gaya." And it has happened. And some places, the person who gives vaccine said that you were supposed to come on this particular date, that means 28th day. Today is 30th day. I can't do it because you have crossed that. They should be told that it is not a clock, that 28th day there will be sudden switch off, or 30th day this will be sudden. So there is always inherent time period response. So today, 4 weeks, I would not say 28 days. 28 days means 28 days. 4 weeks means plus minus 1 or 2 or 3, 4 days. So don't worry about that. So Covaxin, the data is for 4 weeks and yet not data. That's why we say that everything is science-based, evidence-based. For Covishield, up to 12 weeks. For Covaxin, up to 4 weeks, and
It
or
has
maybe 4
happened
weeks.
more so lately, sir, also because when people are turning up for their second dose of vaccination, the vaccination centers have run out of stock, and that is where they are being turned away. And this has led to a lot of apprehension among people. If we talk about the potential risk factors, Professor Ganguly, increasing the dosage interval has also led to questions about any potential risks of breakthrough infections because of this increasing interval. How can we explain that?
Actually, that is not true. You may get infection, even after the first dose and even after the 2 doses. It doesn't make you immune from the infection. And people are getting infected. Actually, I got infected after 2 doses, okay? But it was so mild, when it was just a little bit of fever and nothing else. So this, just now in the US, a football team, the US football, about 9 of people, they got infected. They got Johnson and Johnson, which is very similar than what we use. But they had very mild infection. So people thought that in US, where such a less transmission, why these 8 people got infected? So they got very little problem. Only one thing which is there in a side effect that came out because the Covishield was used so much around the world and still being used, that you get a lot of new data coming up. So it came up in the young girls if they have a thrombosis problem, because the spike protein causes a lot of thrombosis. Spike protein is part of almost every vaccine. Even the Moderna and Pfizer vaccine, we thought it is RBD only, very small portion, but it is also actually spike protein itself. So spike proteins have an inherent problem. So when this was found out, it was thought that though it will be a part of label, particularly in Johnson & Johnson vaccine, that if you have, and people know it, if they have a thrombotic problem, they know it, that they have a thrombotic problem because they are in some kind of a medication. They have been asked to take another alternate. So in India, if you know, and if you are a girl below 40 or 50, if you know that you have a DVT, deep vein thrombosis, or some other condition, then you choose the Covaxin. Then you don't choose Covishield. So this is now known, and for every vaccine, Johnson & Johnson, it is a part of the level. So when we have more vaccines, we will have a cafeteria approach, that you will have choices. And if you have a medical condition in which one of the vaccines has some issue, you will be allowed to choose another vaccine. Otherwise, if you go in program, you will have to stick to one vaccine. And essentially what happens that when you go for vaccination, there is a history taking. This was done right in the beginning. These days, because of the pressure, it might not be adhered that much, but you are asked to wait till 30 minutes at least. It is not only for allergy, it is for any other reaction which you will perhaps encounter. Initially in Germany, when they were providing it, they were making people to wait up to 1 hour, so that if you get any other uneasiness or side effect, you will be taken care of. So
perhaps that is the reason we are not allowing door-to-door immunization of COVID-19.
Yeah, at the moment we are not ready for that, because door-to-door immunization has a risk that if you have that, there is some people who are taking in the car, and they are moving on car and you are being vaccinated, and then they will be driving away. That's a little risky for vaccine. It is better that you take it in a vaccine center. You wait till some time, but there could be an issue with some of the people, like who are old and infirm, who are wheelchair bound. They need the vaccine. Some of them, the institutional guys. I know an institution which is in the Bhiwadi, where about 600 senior citizens live in an assisted living. There the vaccinators have gone and given vaccine right there, along with the doctor. So we could perhaps create a strategy where in the RWAs and other places where senior citizens or institutionalized citizens live, we could send along with the doctor a team to get them vaccination there. But going to every door and vaccinating is not a step. In polio, we had adopted that. Polio vaccination, but polio vaccination, these kinds of things never happened. So yes. Polio vaccination strategy-wise was good.
Okay, Professor Gupta. So we've spoken about how increasing this interval between 2 doses will provide enhanced protection. There is enough science data to back it up. But can patients who have been treated with plasma take the vaccine? When can they take the first dose? What should be the gap between the first and the second dose for those who've been treated with plasma? Also, one question that is being prominently asked is what to do if one gets infected after the first dose of the vaccine. So can we get the second dose as per schedule, or should we delay it? What do the revised guidelines say in particular about the Covishield?
I would say that if a person has taken first dose and got vaccination, a gap of 1 month, now it is being recommended that a gap of 3 months would be advisable, because that is 3 weeks, 12 weeks. And then you take the second dose. That is absolutely safe and no problem. And one should not worry about that you had an infection and then you are delaying it. No, after 3 weeks, you can take it. As far as the plasma is concerned, I would say the same philosophy and same regulation will apply, that you wait for 3 weeks and then you take the second vaccination. And I would strongly agree with what Sir has said, that door-to-door vaccination, the time has not yet come. But for senior citizens, it is important that we make some comfort zone for them, instead of going in the morning, coming in the evening, and the tiring. So if it is comfortable that a doctor goes to the RWA, makes some arrangement so that they can wait, and then they can wait for half an hour after vaccine is over. And that half an hour is primarily to give them a confidence and comfort to them and to the vaccine giver. Both is important. 99% nothing is going to happen. But it is important that they should not hurry up. They should wait. Gossip. Also sitting 12 weeks apart, 12 feet apart.
Mm-hmm. Also, Dr. Gupta, do you also think that increasing the gap could lead to more dropouts? Because that is one problem we have been seeing. People are getting the first dose but not turning up or not following the second dose schedule. Could this increased interval lead to more and more dropouts?
I would say reverse. Because if you increase the gap now, strategically or collateral benefit would be there will be less crowd and then they will be happy to go. Today, some people are reluctant to go looking at कि अरे यार वहाँ तो बहुत भीड़ होगा. There will be more crowd and therefore can we postpone it for 1 week, 1 day. So I would say this will increase the compliance also.
Okay, okay. So one last question, Professor Ganguly, because there have been recommendations in the advisory, the latest advisory by the government, to also include pregnant women and lactating women. Help us understand the logic behind this, because all this while we had been telling that pregnant women, lactating women should not be going ahead with these vaccinations. So what is the idea behind, what is the approach behind allowing them now?
It's a very good question, Tina. But I will just touch a little bit, expand a little bit of what Dr. Gupta said about the gap of this. I was an immunology teacher in PGI Chandigarh before I became ICMR DG. So the catabolic rate of the antibodies within the body is 21 days. Okay. So in 21 days, they drop out. So if you want to really give the vaccine, second dose of vaccine to get best result before it bottoms out and just before it bottoms out, you will get a very good immunologic response. So that is how this particular, what Dr. Gupta was saying, that 3 weeks you can go and take a vaccination. This is the science behind that particular statement. So now coming to pregnant women, Indian data now are coming up two very horrifying data. One, that if you are going to, with this particular mutant, this particular surge, that if you are going to ICU, the mortality rate is nearly 90%. And if you are a pregnant woman, you will die. This happens with influenza also. And it happens with the hepatitis E also, that if you are a pregnant woman, mortality is very high. And in COVID infection, almost every pregnant woman who is getting it is dying. So Covishield, Pfizer and Moderna have now data on pregnant women. And what they are giving very early even. They are giving in the first week. Normally they are given later on so that the child gets antibodies and protected up to 6 months or 4 or 5 months. But they are giving it right on the first week without any deleterious effect. What happens? Sometimes a little bit of a lump in the breast occurs because they form germinal centers. That is, the breast is also an immunologic organ. When there are antibodies which passes through milk to the child, and so this is just a germinal center. There is not a lump which is a tumor or which is an infection, and this goes out. After some times this recedes. So I think we should, taking the geographical data, it is not going to change in Indian women, because if we now do a study in Indian women, it will take longer time. So if we take geographical data, what we have, and we protect and save the pregnant women in India, because if we don't do that, it will be a disaster.
So the thrust now is, of course, to ramp up vaccination, cover as many people as possible, and to blunt the impact of COVID-19, which in this second surge has been devastating in the country. And that's why the guidelines have been revised as far as the Covishield vaccine administration is concerned. Time is running out. So with that, I'll have to wrap up this edition of The Big Picture. Thank you once again to both my guests for joining me on the program and sharing your perspective with us on the show. Take care of your families, and thank you very much.
Beautiful room.
To my viewers, I want to make an appeal. Please take care of yourselves. Stay at home if you can. But if you are stepping out, make sure you are double masked up. That's what the experts are suggesting to blunt the impact of the COVID-19, the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. Keep washing your hands regularly and maintain physical distancing. On our part, these are basic precautions that we should be taking to protect ourselves and our families. So take care and see you soon tomorrow at the same time. Thank you once again for your time. Thank you to both my guests.